All right, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this one more time. I recorded this, my announcement that I'm finally on the road again and I'm leaving, and in the middle of me saying it, the whole thing fell off the windshield onto the ground, and I hope that's not an omen. I think it's a good reason to I think it's a good reason to be extra careful today. I went through my whole checklist. There's about 20 items, and 2 of the items are one.
Then take the first left.
The GPS is already telling me where to turn, and I'm still in the RV park. 2 of the items on my checklist are: Rob, are you being careful? And Rob, are you going slow?
Turn left
I think
on Crawford Way, then turn left.
I think that the thing that, and by the way, there's a bunch of turns up here, so this thing's going to keep interrupting us, so please bear with me. The number one reason people make mistakes breaking camp and leaving is they rush. Don't rush. If it means you're going to be late somewhere, be late somewhere. Okay, guys, here's the first adventure. I'm sorry I don't have the special microphone on, but I don't want to fiddle with it while I'm driving on a highway. I'm in Las Vegas, and the first adventure was, those of you that have been with me for a while know that George the cat has a lot of problems traveling, and I did a bunch of research, and I was hoping this medication that Beth recommended was going to help. So I gave him the medication this morning, first thing, put him in the soft-sided small carrier, and it looked very quiet at first, and then the smell hit me. He had defecated inside. I don't think he'd vomited, so I'm wondering about the motion sickness thing. But anyway, it happened before I got to Vegas, so it happened right away. That was kind of lucky because I went straight to a PetSmart in Vegas, and thinking that if I got a bigger cage, like, you know, the cage that you can see out of and is bigger, that may help, certainly make it easier to clean. So I did that. I brought George in and put him in the sink in the trailer and used the sprayer to wash him off, and he was not pleased, to say the least. I have a couple of wounds here that might take a couple of days to heal. George was not happy with me, but I got him cleaned up, got the carrier cleaned up and everything. I was there about 40 minutes before PetSmart opened. When they opened, I went in, got a cage that, so you can probably see the corner of it right now. So we have been on the road from PetSmart not very long at all, so I have no idea whether this is going to do any good. He's pretty quiet right now. I think he can see Dottie and definitely maybe see my arm. I don't want Dottie to give up her little spot next to me, but it would be nice if George could see me. But we'll see how it goes, and I'll report back at the end of the day. So I'm about 15-20 minutes outside of Las Vegas on Route 93, and I wanted to give you just a little bit of taste of what the geography looks like here. It's pretty cool. We'll get over this. It's funny, this night truck just went to great lengths to pass me going up the hill, and I was doing 60 on the cruise control, and he passes me and immediately slows to 40. So, and look, there's a scenic overlook, and there's a beautiful view of the lake. Oh, it's a great view. Let me pick that a little bit more so you can see. Oh, it's gorgeous. I'm pretty sure I have another video where I did this before. I think when I was on my way to Coco Fest last year. I got this kind of this exact view, and sounds. So, oh, it's very windy here. Keeping both hands on the steering wheel, keeping the speed down. Wow, very. I would enjoy it more if it wasn't so windy. Says your speed is 77. It ain't my speed. That's the guy next to me. I'm doing 50. And Boulder City, Hoover Dam is off to the right here. About 70 miles before I hit Interstate 40, which I'll be taking west through Flagstaff and on to Albuquerque. And the plan was I travel today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. Spend Tuesday night in another Las Vegas, New Mexico, and that's right near State Park, Coyote Creek State Park, where I'll be for the next 2 weeks. But I think I might get there to Las Vegas a day early if I'm feeling really good. It's funny, I made a whole thermos full of coffee, and I have no idea what I did with it. I don't know where it is. Hopefully it's in the trailer and I didn't stupidly leave it on the bumper or something. But I don't need any coffee. I'm wide awake, and if I'm wide awake, there's no sense in putting any caffeine or any artificial stimulants in my body. I was watching the news this morning, and I heard something. There was a story that I find amazing. This guy, I guess he's a scientist and an entrepreneur. He was thinking, hey, technology is able to grow organs for people. I think I've seen a thing where they can actually use DNA and grow someone an ear, something like that. And he said, well, if you can do that, why can't you grow like chicken meat? This guy friggin' grew chicken meat, and there was actually a restaurant that was selling it, and they had people tasting it. It's indistinguishable from meat you get off a live chicken, and it's very expensive to do, obviously, so it's not going to shut down chicken and farms and cattle anytime soon. But what it really suggests is that if the technology's headed that way, we may not be killing animals anymore for our food, which would be pretty amazing. I get it that in one way or another, that's the way life works on this planet. Is we feed off of each other, but it would be nice if less animals suffered, I think. And here we go, and we are about to enter the great state of Arizona, and I made this mistake before I saw this sign. I said, hey, we're near Kingman. We're not near Kingman. This is Kingman Wash. Very different thing. All right, I got to pay attention to the driving. I got a little swerve there. You probably didn't even notice it, but it made my heart jump a little bit. Oh, I'm just coming into Kingman, Arizona, and I thought the scenery was pretty cool. Kingman, and I'm about 2 miles out, coming into the valley here. I'm 8.1 miles to the gallon, and that's a combination of two important things. One is that there's a lot of elevation changes, and it's very hot. So I've been on max AC, and you have your max AC going, and that's going to have an effect on your gas mileage. And in addition here, my truck, I've got the cruise control set at 60, right? And it will slow me down when I get going too fast, but it uses the engine to do that, and it increases the RPMs when it does that. So you would think you'd get, hey, great gas mileage on the downhill, but that's not necessarily the case. And this road is just horrible. It's really terrible. It's so bumpy and messy. And here we are coming into Kingman, and in about a mile we'll get on Interstate 40 heading west. I'll check in with you later. So I'm back at you. A little bit of a traffic jam getting into Interstate 40 in Kingman. And I did mention that the historic Route 66 goes right through Kingman here. I won't be taking that, but it's interesting to note that a very famous stretch of it goes through Kingman, Arizona. And I think I mentioned earlier, I'll be heading west on Interstate 40, and that would be pretty dumb, because that would be the opposite way I want to go. I'm going to be heading east, in fact, on Interstate 40. Well, here I am making my first gas stop of the trip in Seligman. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but here
turn right
we
at
are.
the stop sign.
It is a little truck stop. Not much to it, but there should be plenty of room for me to get gas. And I'm at a higher elevation, about an hour outside of Flagstaff, and I see that the temperature has dropped about 10 degrees. It's 93 degrees outside. It was well over 100 for the first part of the trip. I've been on the road for, let's see, almost 6 hours. Really only gone 240 miles. Part of that was the hour delay for George at the PetSmart. But that's all. I haven't
Arriving
heard
at Johnson's
anything
Travel
from
Center on the left.
George. So we'll see.
Turn right on I-40.
So looks like we got a spot we can slide into here behind this lady. I told you I've been listening to the audio, and I've also been listening to a book on tape. And just that made me think, I wrote a book about 30 years ago, and it's been on Amazon for years as a Kindle, and now it's an audiobook on Amazon. It's called Resolution Trust, and it's not easy to find unless you use my name. So you'd have to do Resolution Trust and then type in Wakely, Wakeley, and you'll find my book. Otherwise, there are too many things named Resolution Trust. But it's a murder mystery romance, the way I was thinking 30 years ago. You might find that interesting. And I'll put a link to it in the description. So here we are, driving by Flagstaff, Arizona, which many nomads come up here and camp in National Forest land up here in the higher elevations for the summer. People I know do that. And it is kind of the gateway to the Grand Canyon. It's not that far from here, a stone's throw away from here. I believe there's even a train that you can take from Flagstaff up to I believe it's the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And It is cooler here. It's my truck says it's 88 degrees. Sometimes the truck is a little high, maybe 3 degrees higher than what it really is. So it's probably about 85. It was definitely in triple digits in Las Vegas, and for the next few hours it was definitely triple digits. But we're up, I believe, above 7,000 feet in Arizona, and it's in the mid 80s versus low 100s, and we see green trees. So it's let's see, it's about 3:20. I've been on the road since about 7:30, minus 1 hour for the detour for the kitty. And when we stopped for gas, I checked on George. No accidents. George, well, I can't say George looked happy, but making no noise, so he's not been miserable. So it was a good move to stop and get a bigger open cage. About a year ago, I tried a giant dog carrier, and that didn't work. But now that I think about it, the big difference is the carrier wasn't completely open. This is a completely open foldable cage, so George can see 360. There's enough room to turn around if he wants to. So I think this is probably a good thing. We'll see how it does tomorrow, and see if George is even speaking to me. I feel, the 3-3-3 rule is get off the road at 3, what is the 3-3-3 rule? It's 300 miles a day, get off the road by 3 o'clock, and stop every 3 hours to rest. And I've broken all 3 of those because I've been on the road. Well, let's think about this. It was pretty close to 3 hours where I got out and had to fill up with gas. So maybe I hit that one, but it's 3:20 and I still feel great, so I'm going to keep pushing on. I think I can easily do another 3 or 4 hours, and that's going to get me really close to my ultimate destination, which is Las Vegas. Not Las Vegas, Nevada, Las Vegas, New Mexico. So if I get definitely within a stone's throw tonight, wherever I stay, I'll call the KOA I have Tuesday reservations on, ask them if they can start me on Monday night instead. So that means probably if everything goes not according to plan, but everything goes without interruption, I should be in Las Vegas, New Mexico tomorrow night. And so I've got I could go another 3 or 4 hours here, especially this time of year. You pull into a campground at 7:30, it's still light. I don't like pulling into campgrounds when it's dark, campgrounds I don't know, or RV resorts or anything that I don't know at night. But clear skies, plenty of daylight, and I feel really good, and I'm entertained by. I'm listening to this book on tape. And this book on tape is by an author. I'd have to check. I'm not sure whether it's the author or the couple of guys that have picked up for him after he died. But the original author's name is Robert B. Parker. It was a private eye series called Spencer. Spencer like the poet. It's with an S. So Spenser. And those of you my age may be familiar with him, at least the character, because there was a Robert Urick's series in the 1980s called Spencer for Hire. I think it was on for 3 seasons. And Spencer is a Boston private eye with a sidekick named Hawk. After I went to college in Boston, I had moved out to LA, and I was working in an office, working for the department store, home corporate headquarters as a financial analyst, and a guy became friendly with at work, came out and said, "Hey, here's a book for you. You should read this." And he tosses like this dime store kind of looking novel, and I read it. And the first thing I was struck with was that the action took place. And by the way, this had to be in 84 or 85, and no one had heard of Robert B. Parker or Spencer, I don't think. It was before the TV series. And he was just starting to get popular. But there were a bunch of things that attracted me to this character in the writing. Is one, he had a sense of humor very similar to mine, and two, just about every single scene in the book was at a real location in Boston that I was very familiar with. And I don't mean like famous locations in Boston. I mean pretty obscure locations in Boston. And I found out later that the reason for that was when I was at Northeastern University in Boston between 77 and 82, Robert B. Parker was a professor there, like an adjunct professor, English professor, and he was teaching and writing these books on the side. And I was voracious in collecting all the works that all the books that I could, and as they, over the years, I was like waiting for the next one to come out, and the next one to come out, and I was starstruck isn't the right word, but I felt so much of a kindred spirit that in later years I wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back, not just a paragraph, he wrote me back a full letter, and unfortunately I don't have it anymore. But he was very nice and gracious and interested in me. And then he came. I was living in, where was I living? I can't remember. Well, it doesn't matter. I was living somewhere that had a bookstore where he was there for a signing, and I went and I met him, and he signed one of my books. And of course, I don't have that book. And I told him about the letter, and he kind of remembered me. But the character, he was really, you could tell the character Spencer was the author. He was writing about himself. I mean, he was never a detective, but the personality and the sense of humor, it was him. And the relationship. Spencer had a long-term relationship with a character woman named Susan Silverin. And they had a unique relationship where they never got married, but they were completely in love and devoted and committed to each other. And they lived separate lives together. They never lived under the same roof. Later, I found out that Robert B. Parker was married for decades, from I think maybe his 20s or early 30s until he died when he was in his 50s or early 60s. They lived in a duplex. And no, they didn't live in one and rent out the other. Robert lived in one and his wife lived in the other. They lived separately but together. And I thought there could be people listening to me now going, that sounds terrible. But to me, Mr. Committophobe kind of, that sounds ideal to me. And anyway, he was my hero. And I can't remember how old he was. You can Google Robert B. Parker to tell you how old he was. But he died suddenly, unexpectedly, at his desk of a heart attack while he was writing a book. And they contracted, I think it's more than one guy. Initially, I don't remember the name of the authors now, but the Spencer series continues to this day because the estate awarded the contract for people to continue the character, authors to continue the character, and they've done very, very well as a super fan. I can tell you the follow-up after he died were same tone, same personality, same sense of humor. It's indistinguishable, which is a great thing. So I don't know how many books there are now. It's got to be 60, 70, something like that. It was a big number when he retired. It was a big number of books. And he's also got another character named Jesse Stone, who is a disgraced LA cop who drinks too much and basically got fired from LAPD and gets a job in Paradise, Massachusetts as the police chief in this coastal small town. And there's a series of books about him, and he's basically got a very similar personality to Spencer. And there was a series of 5 or 6 movies based on Jesse Stone, and the actor who plays it is the same guy, Tom Selleck, that does Blue Bloods now, and of course he did Magnum PI, but he plays Jesse Stone. Jesse Stone is a 60-year-old police chief, and he you know what a good actor Tom Selleck is. And so you can find all those movies on Amazon, the Jesse Stone movies. I've bought them all. I think there are 5 or 6 of them, and they're rewatchable too. They're absolutely terrific. And there's another one that I never got into. It was a female detective, and I can't think of her name, the character's name, but there's definitely a female detective series. And I think there was at least one Western that he wrote that I can't remember whether I read the Western or not. It was one of his earlier works. There was a few Spencer movies. Joe Mantegna, I think is his name, played Spencer. There are at least 2 or 3 of those movies. And there was a very recent one, a Spencer movie that was one of the Wallenbergs starred in it. And I am a big fan of both Donnie and the other Wallenberg as actors, but this was a terrible movie. It wasn't really in line with the spirit of the book series, and I did watch it twice just to make sure, and it wasn't that great. But anyway, that's my story about Robert B. Parker, and that's what I've been doing for the past hour or 2, is listening to a Robert B. Parker novel that I haven't read or heard before, because it's one of the ones after he died. And the last thing is, he's the one that inspired me back then, 30 years ago, to write my own novel, in kind of the same spirit. I mentioned it earlier, it's Resolution Trust, and it's not really a detective story. It's a guy that sort of gets forced into the semi-role. Whoa, a big gust of wind. He gets forced into, for personal reasons, into kind of investigating a murder that happens close to him. So it's kind of a detective story, but he's not really a detective. He's just a business guy that was in, the wrong place at the wrong time, situational. And in it, he meets a woman that he really connects with and falls for. And there's some intersection between the murder, the mystery, and this woman. And there are a lot of trust issues that he has that this situation brings out. So anyway, if you're interested in that book, as I mentioned before, I'm gonna, in the the description, I'll put a link. All right, I'll catch you the next interesting thing. So this is where I'm passing right now, sitting on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. now you know where I am. There's not much to see from the highway, and I've got time, and I could go by that famous corner if I wanted to, but I just, I'm not going to do that. I'm focused on getting some more miles. And don't worry, I won't quit my day job, but I don't have much musical talent. Anytime I'm not off key singing, it's because I took singing lessons for like a year. And if I sing on key, it's really because I'm concentrating and using the skill. Nothing comes naturally. But that is not true in my family for other members of my family. And starting with my sisters, Margaret and Ann, and both of them are really talented singers and musicians. And I grew up with them playing the piano and guitar and sounds of them singing in the house. And I always thought it was so cool that there was a real singer named Ann Margaret, and it was Ann and Margaret were my sisters. So that I always thought that was so cool. And Margaret had a career as a professional singer, and she produced several albums, and never made it real big, but that was not due to lack of talent. There's a lot of timing and luck involved in the music business. Annie, I'm sure she could have done the same thing. She was just as talented, but she chose not to. She had a career as ended up being a really talented accountant, then a chief financial officer for a nursing. It was a little more than a nursing home, but a pretty nice place in Ithaca, New York. But they're still just super talented, incredible voices. And Margaret had two sons, Sam and Casey. And Sam and Casey got the talent, the family talent. And they, after college, started a band in New York City. And that band became known as, my audience is 50, 60 plus, and you may not know the name of this band, but I bet your grandkids do, the X-Ambassadors. And if you Google them, there are two songs that you'll probably know. One is Renegades, and the other one is Unsteady. They were both hits. And they tour all over the world and have been extremely successful. Sam is the lead singer. Casey is on keyboards, and another childhood friend is on the drums, and kind of a studio musician on the guitar is the part of the band as well. I guess they hired him as a studio musician, and he's just stayed with them. Anyway, if you want to know more about them, it's X, the letter X, and then Ambassadors. Really, really terrific music, and they're rock stars. It's so exciting that they've been so successful like that. And as I'm driving here, and I was going to do that little Winslow, Arizona thing, and then I thought I'd tell you what I just told you, and then I thought, before I started recording this, I went, you know what? For those of you that don't know, those who've been with me for a long time know, my mother died basically giving birth to me. So I never knew my mother. And my sisters and brothers were, the sisters were preteens. My both brothers were teenagers when she died in 1960. And at this point, everything that I know about her, I get from them. And I thought, well, I don't know whether she had a good voice or was musical. And I immediately called my sister Margaret and asked her, and she said, "Oh God, yes, Robert." She had a beautiful voice, and she was in shows and sang in the choir, and she was always singing when we were kids. And I said, "How could I not know that, Margaret?" And she said, and I said, "Is it just because I never asked?" And she said, "Probably, you were younger when we would talk about it, and it didn't mean that much, and you forgot or didn't hear, and really, they probably did talk about it, and I was so young that I didn't understand just the intrinsic core beautiful value of knowing more about her. And the older I've gotten, the more greedy I've gotten to know things about her, and I'm just really grateful. Now I know one more thing about her. I know, and she had a really great sense of humor. My sisters used to joke with me about this, but the joke came from our mother, they'd be on a family road trip, and they would pass like a abandoned little house or shack, just long abandoned, falling apart, and she would say to one of the kids, she'd say, "Margaret, that's where you were born." And my sisters would say that to me years later when we were on road trips. But that's kind of that cute sense of humor that really told me a lot about who she was, and it's absolutely delightful. But sorry there wasn't much to see with Winslow, Arizona. And probably the next place of any note that I'm going to pass is Gallup, New Mexico, and a little over 100 miles. It is 4:22. I've been on the road since 7:30. I still feel great, so I'm going to keep going. I've done 376 miles, and my gas mileage, since I was able to cut back on the AC a little because it's pleasant in here, 9.4 miles per gallon. So I picked up more than a mile per gallon recently, and that's cumulative, so that's pretty exciting. And I will talk to you when I hit Gallup. So here we are about to cross the New Mexico state line. I was going to wait until we got to Gallup to do another update, but the scenery is so amazing, I thought I'd do it here. And it was just flat and featureless through Arizona until we started getting close to New Mexico. And look at this. So anyway, Gallup, New Mexico is famous for being kind of the epicenter for indigenous people in the United States. It borders up against a very large, the Navajo Nation reservation, very large, and Gallup itself is the home not only to Navajo tribe folk, but also Hopi and several other tribes. So there's a lot of Indian culture around Gallup, and that's kind of why you've probably heard about Gallup or heard of it. Between Flagstaff and Albuquerque, it's the biggest population center along Interstate 40, which we're on now. And so an update is it's just about 6 p.m. So I've been on the road for since 7:30, so pretty long time. I've covered 470.6 miles, and my mileage keeps getting better and better. It's 9.9 right now, and I'll probably stop for gas around Gallup. And then I did see a sign for an RV park around exit 79, so I assume that's about 79 miles from the border. And it looked like full hookups, pull-throughs for $28 a night. So that's probably where I will stay tonight. And looks like that'll pull, right now I'm 282 miles from my ultimate destination. The KOA at Las Vegas, New Mexico. So it's going to be, I'll be under 200 miles to go tomorrow. It'll be a nice, easy drive tomorrow. I'll stay at the KOA Monday night and Tuesday night and be at Coyote Creek State Park starting on Wednesday for 14 days. So I don't know, I may show you where I end up spending the night real quick before I sign off on this video, but I hope you're enjoying the landscape. It's pretty cool here. Look at those red cliffs to the left there with trees on them. It's a pretty exciting landscape, just beautiful. And I think I'm gonna give it a minute because I think that we're gonna hit New Mexico like in a moment here, maybe less than a minute. Let's give it a 30 seconds or so. Because I'm looking at my Garmin map and my little "You are here" arrow is right on top of it. Looks like the border. I think it's right up here. It is. And just want you to be with me when I cross into the state of New Mexico. Is this big blue sign up here? And I'll cut it off right after we pass it. And here we are. New Mexico welcomes you. All right, see you in a few. Hey, so I got into the campground, did a total of 555 miles today, and it ended up being 10.1 or 10.2 miles per gallon, which is pretty good. And I got a short drive tomorrow to get to Las Vegas, New Mexico, and it was just too dark by the time I got here to shoot anything outside. I ran into some neighbors and got talking to them, and anyway, we're all buttoned up, and I'm gonna go to bed as soon as I edit and upload this video. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I enjoyed making it. Take care, everybody.